start. Okay, I think there is like an hour's worth of chats. So I'm just going to ignore. Is it going? Is it doing its thing? It is. All right. And I think I see your levels popping up. And I think we're live. All right. Cool.
Right.
Welcome, everybody. This is Houston. We have a problem. I've got Roza on. She's going to kind of give us a brief talk through as to what's happened with the court and her new filing. And she's not going to stay too long because she has not slept in weeks. And she hopes to get some sleep in. So when she basically just falls asleep at the keyboard, I think we're done. So I want to welcome everybody. Thanks for jumping in. I'm going to talk for a few more seconds, and then I can throw in my intro, and then we'll get going. And the intro is going right now.
We'll go ahead and make sure that intro makes its way into quotes.
Okay. And intro off. There we are. All right, everyone. So, Roza, I'm going to turn to you and talk to you. Give us the brief lowdown as to what happened between Friday and today.
So they filed their response Thursday night. They sent it to me in an email, but then they filed it Friday morning. And I didn't reply right away. I was trying to work on it over the weekend, but that didn't happen because, well, it did a little bit. I was reading and stuff, but I had to read so much that there was a point I think I malfunctioned. You have to read so much. All the things that I read, and you can only use certain pieces of what you read, so it's a lot. So I was getting prepared to file this response, right? And then the judge ruled that he was denying the TRO, which is the emergency temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction. He ruled against it Monday. So I was like, well, now I got to change this whole thing to not be a response because the ship has sailed on that. So then I started looking up the law for a reconsideration because I noticed that a big thing to me was I read the law they cited that gave them absolute immunity. And I wanted to pick at that. I just want to pull it apart. So I read, there's something called an amicus brief. I know we talked about this, Houston. An amicus brief is when something's going to the Supreme Court or a high court, and they say, hey, experts in the field, random, non-biased, just people who are just top of the game of the industry, write us some kind of brief with your attorneys. Here's the group of attorneys that are experts in that field. So it'll be they're not just regular experts usually, but usually they're expert attorneys that are the best of some kind of field. So it's if it's something technology, it'll be the best technology attorneys or best engineer attorneys, whatever.
Yeah.
So I read the amicus brief for that case that they cited saying that they had absolute immunity. And if you read the brief, and if you even read the case, right? At the end of the case, it says, because underwriters can be sued for monetary damages if they make a mistake, we give them immunity because they get absolute immunity because they can be sued for monetary damages. I don't remember exactly how it is because right now I'm trying to remember exactly where it came in. Yeah. Sometimes I just need to put my brain in a jar or a massage chair and relax. But I read the amicus brief and it was saying that underwriters are it's a risk loss analysis people, and self-regulatory organizations should have immunity because if they end up doing something bad, these underwriters, then they later you can sue them for money for damages of something. And it said that they had immunity from damages in their, I don't remember exactly. Right now I'm blanking on how I figured it out, but I read the amicus brief and it just didn't make sense. And it had nothing to do with equitable relief anyways.
Yeah. It's all about monetary damages.
Yeah. Everything was about monetary damages. Everything was about, so also there's a case directly against FINRA forcing them to provide an accounting, but the case settled, so it's not in the case books.
Yeah.
FINRA has a note about it on their website. And there's a rule in the local rules that says that, and there's also, it's a law that if you're an attorney, you can't just fail to disclose adverse arguments. So if there's case law out there that's controlling and it's against your stuff, you still have to address it, but you just have to say why it doesn't necessarily fit.
Yeah.
But they knew about it because it's on their website.
Yeah.
So I just linked that, and I was like, they knew about this, judge. So if you want to sanction them because you're maybe a little tiffed that you put out an order and I'm asking you to take it back.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to be salty with them, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, here's your rule. You want to do it. But that law, so there was an order entered in a case that said FINRA had to open their books because they're only shielded from regulatory function, and you can't tell if they did a regulatory function
without
that was
books.
Yeah. You can't tell if it had self-interest or if it was actually in the purpose of public interest. And then it also said there's no way that this is in the service of public interest anyways. They said they're serving public interest, and I said no, they're not.
Yeah.
So I just had to take it step by step, and I just was like, you know what, everything they said, I wrote it out, and I was like, let's just go piece by piece and just unravel it. But
and you also pointed out the recent news about FINRA getting in trouble for putting their thumb on the scale as far as arbitrators with Wells Fargo, right?
Yeah, I did. So I included that because I thought it bolsters the argument to say that we're saying they're a monopoly, but this is not the only place that's saying that.
Yeah.
And also just to go into the fact that, like, they said there's no remedy and there's no immediacy. Yeah. There is immediacy, and the remedy is don't do NextBridge until this is done. And you know what? Maybe if things would have rolled out, we would have been, yes, there's no remedy. But nobody has NextBridge. Not just that. They said in their filing that the NextBridge would be done within 2 weeks. Well, that was about 3 weeks after.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? Where's your extra week? Yeah. And now here we are. And now there's 6 to 8 weeks. That's just asinine. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, these people, everyone calls their broker every day. And they're like, hey, where are my shares? Oh, they're in your account. I'm like, cool. Can I have them? They're like, you cannot. Why not? Because you don't have your shares yet. Like, okay. So
what's going on? Like, this shouldn't take this long. Also, we just went through a merger with this same stock. So I made sure to mention that. Yep. This same stock just went through a merger. They had a date of record. They continued after the date of record trading for 2 days. And then they ended up doing the settlement early. Yeah. It was early. So clearly there's no need to the halt was unnecessary, but also the halt was a way to prevent brokerages from losing money because public investors would have gotten money on their exchanges, but it was brokers and obligors to the investors that would have lost.
Yeah.
So insulating them is, in my opinion, a crime. And I feel like I had to just water it down because I was like, if you looked at that law and you saw what it said and you knew the facts of the case, thousands of people on Twitter were able to look at it and say, hey, money damages is not what we're looking for. Yeah. And the judge looked at it and he didn't understand it right away. So I was like, you know what? I just need to water it down.
Sorry, there's a dog over my shoulder and she is doing the put the blanket over my head look. Come on, get it. Here you go. Boom. All right. Now she's happy. Plop. Yeah. I read it and it is so concise, so clear, absolute, just brilliant. Just
thank you.
As a complete not lawyer myself, I was like, this hits every single solitary claim they made, counters it, shows specifically how the damages happened, and hits home not even like blowing it out of the water, the fact that short shares still exist. And you use conservative numbers, not even like you use numbers from FINRA's own website about
that's why not just that, like, you guys know because you published this, and if you didn't know and you published it, you need to talk to the guy who's publishing stuff and ask him why he's not telling you. How about that? That's the problem.
Yeah.
But that's still a FINRA problem. That's not an investor problem. Yeah. So investors shouldn't be the one dealing with the risk assessed because of your whatever. You guys got some internal issues. Deal with it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not our fault.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's just the whole thing right now is the judge also granted them an extension.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't give me a chance to reply. He said that in his order. He's like,
Yeah.
I just got this motion to extend, and I'm not going to allow plaintiff to respond because of immediacy, because they have some kind of immediacy. And I was like, okay, I had my immediacy, but
Yeah, I filed a month ago, Your Honor. Yeah.
yeah, so, but whatever. So I'm hoping that, I think that he saw what they said and he was like, oh, wow, they're saying they have immunity. But I think that he didn't take it and weigh it with the facts I presented. So I was like, maybe I didn't present them as well as I could.
Yeah.
My other filings were rushed, right? One was
Yeah.
done in 3 hours. One was done in less than an hour.
Yeah.
So they were kind of just shoved out the door. But this one, I sat on it for like 2 days, right? I sat and I weighed it in my head for like a good day and a half. I filed it this morning. On Monday, I was really like, I was doing some research on Sunday. And then on Monday, I was really looking at it. And I was really like, all right, I'm going to start drafting this up and really, really analyzing what I had read. But I'm reading things that are like 200 pages each, right?
Yeah.
So it's like no sleep. I bought like 4 packs of Red Bull and I finished them. So it's been quite a few days, but it's just been a lot of reading. And then I was like, let me ruminate on this, you know?
Yeah.
I got it all edited and I had my boss look it over and I was like, just, you know, rip it up, make sure he doesn't really do security stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, usually he can't like follow because he's like, you're like, this is so complicated, you know? Yeah. Especially this is like such a niche, complicated situation. So I was like,
listen, I know of it ever happening. So
yeah. So I was like, let's go through it until you can fully understand it. And he's like, great idea. So I go back and forth and I change and I change and I make changes. And then he was like, great, I get it now. And he's like, wait, you need to tell them these are like theft duplicate shares. And I was like, well, what if I get like defamation? He's like, yeah, okay, don't say that. So that's kind of how that went down. And I had some time to sit on it. I wasn't just rushing something out. And I was like making sure that it was an easier read, I think. And like, so let's just.
It's such a weird case too, that you really have to like.
Even if you know about securities, you may not be able to follow it because it is complicated. So I watered it all the way down.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I mean, I would imagine you dealing with some judge who's probably in his 70s, considering he was appointed by Clinton, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you gotta, like, how I have to explain it to my ancient dad. Like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm gonna use as many like metaphors as possible to describe this thing. And we're gonna do it 20 times, and then eventually you're gonna go, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I was telling my boss, and I was like, listen, he's like, I still don't really understand your case. And I was like, okay, here's the problem. And I'm like explaining there's 300 shorts that, because he's like, I kind of get shorts. I was like, there's this. And he's like, oh, wait, I completely understand now. He's like, why don't you just say that? Yeah. And I was like, because I'm just using the law to craft it. And he's like, no. Let's just make sure that you say that without saying something that would be defamatory. So I had time to sit on it. That's the difference. The other ones I just had to like just do something. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually like craft something that is not bad.
I remember during my undergraduate, you take a whatever physics class, and like the physics homework is they give you one problem and you have a week to solve it. And you stare at that thing, and you stare at that thing, and you stare at that thing, and you stare at that thing. And then the week comes by, you just throw in an answer because you honestly don't know. Go to sleep that night, and at 3 a.m, you burst awake with the answer. You're like, dang it.
So, I know. I cannot tell you how many times I would be laying down like, okay, I'm going to sleep now. And then I would get up and be like, wait, let me Google this really fast. Let me check something really fast and just pop up and look into stuff. And then there was a night that I literally only slept for like an hour and a half. And I was like, because I was just reading. And then when you're drafting, I'm just trying to get something down on, like, it wasn't, the first draft is never great, right? But you want to put it down and then go back and fix it, but you want to make sure you don't miss anything because there's so many moving parts in this. Yeah. So it's definitely been a process, but I finally got it out, and let's see what the judge has to say about it. I mean, they lost in a case that literally they got an order against them to prepare the accounting. They know about it. It's on their website.
Yeah.
And it's for the same exact reasons that I'm stating. So I don't see why he wouldn't order at least the accounting.
Yeah.
Also, if the accounting proves that there needs to be reconciliation, I don't see how he says, I'm not going to make you guys reconcile. I just don't see how that happens.
Yeah. So
somebody borrowed a share from somebody.
Yep.
And if they borrowed that share, they have a responsibility to return it. Like, how do you get around that?
And not only that, but sometimes they borrowed shares without people even knowing. If it was,
yeah, if they're not
FTDs,
tracking,
yeah.
If they're not tracking, well, those FTDs, I also noted, 45 days of FTDs. So they definitely knew, because after 35 days, that's the max, they're supposed to reprimand.
Yep.
Whoever continuously has an FTD. So if you're not reprimanding them and it's going on for 45 days, and if it's the same ones going on for 45 days and you're not reprimanding, well, you're failing at your function anyways.
Exactly. So how can you claim you're doing a regulatory responsibility when you're clearly not?
And why should retail investors be the ones footing the bill?
Yeah.
Why?
Especially when the shorting is where the risk should be taking place.
Exactly. And billionaires are the ones that, hedge funds are for billionaires making money on those.
Yeah.
Like, they make billions of dollars. So why should the people who are investing, like, their extra couple bucks a week, right? Like, why should those people be the ones eating it? Yeah. They're not the ones that took the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
They did a calculated evaluation, and they should be profiting off of it, not somebody who took a huge risk. Yeah. That's just how it is, Yeah. So I hope that it was clear enough, and that the judge reads it and he's like, oh man, maybe I should consider it. The reconsideration, there has to be like an error of law or fact. And I think that the fact that they never even mentioned the shorts, and that's like a big thing, I think that is also hopefully something important for me. Hopefully. We'll find out.
Yeah.
The judge, when he granted that extension today, I got kind of salty about it.
Yeah. They were a day late. And
well, it's not that one I already knew was going to happen, and I didn't want to be petty, so I was like, whatever. But I'm talking about the one that they can now, their complaint was due today.
Yeah.
Or sorry, their response to my complaint was due today. If they didn't answer by today, I win the whole lawsuit.
Yeah.
And the judge gave them an extension today.
Oh, that extension. Sorry, I didn't hear about that one. Okay.
Yes, right. That now their response is not due till February 1st.
What? That's weeks. Yeah.
And he didn't give me a chance. They put in a motion to get an extension.
Yeah.
And he didn't give me a chance to respond. He said, I'm not giving the plaintiff a chance to respond because there's not enough time.
Yeah.
Because it's due today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He gave him 20 days.
Yeah. If there's a motion to dismiss on this, do you have the ability to appeal that dismissal?
If he dismisses it, yeah, I do.
Okay. So you can move up to the appellate court and...
Yeah. And just keep it pushing, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that we'll see how it goes. If you want, in federal court, if you want a hearing, you really need to ask for it. So I did. I included it in my motion. I was like, this is a motion for reconsideration, and I want a hearing, bold.
Yeah.
Plaintiff's request for an oral argument. I want to be heard.
Yeah.
I want to appeal to you by explaining it to you so you can understand, not just reading. Like, I want you to know what the hell is going on.
Let's work on all the possible learning methods that you may do best with. Yeah.
Like really understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
This is not like, the other thing is when you buy shares in a company, technically you're supposed to get specific performance. They have to make room for you at the table. Mm-hmm. That is a direct threat to NextBridge Hydrocarbons. Like, directly, that is a threat. Like, you need to, or they're just going to do rescission on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So like that, those are the only ways I can see it legally happening. Obviously, this whole thing has not really been legal, so don't know. But I'm I made sure that I got my word out that I want that oral argument.
Yeah. Yeah. There's talk. People sending me all sorts of messages last night about well, they might just do unwinding and like just return everybody's cash back and take their shares away and just go from there. And I was like, that just opens up even more lawsuits, because that's cash that could have been used to do other things over the course of a year, right?
Well, I think it's complicated to say that.
Yeah.
Because if they cannot provide and they have to give you your money back, if the judge orders rescission, if a judge says, I'm going to do rescission, I'm going to put you back to the way you were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, opportunity loss is not always profitable, because like what were you going to do with that money?
Yeah.
Like, were you going to go and buy Tesla with it, and Tesla was going up in price? If you had real evidence that you were going to buy something that actually went up in price, you might be able to get the difference. But other than that, probably not.
Even then, like, they can do the unwinding, but that still doesn't take into account that there's a host of shorts from Torch. So
I think the whole thing is a mess, and the only way to really do it, because they could do rescission, or they could do specific performance where they force NextBridge to issue additional shares.
Yeah.
Which that to me is just like, no.
Yeah.
So
that dilutes our value. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they do rescission, like, that's another mess.
Yeah.
Because now you have to do rescission all the way back, and then what about the other shorts all the way back? So like, where do you stop, right? But the easiest way is open the market and make the shorts cover. Like, that's the easiest way.
Just position the close. That's all you need to do. Done.
But I don't know. I know a lot of people think it's not going to open. Maybe not. Yeah. But at least I'm pushing it in a direction to at the very least, get some actual numbers. Like, everybody's speculating. We're all speculating and thinking and trying to understand. I want data. Just give it to me.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
If you're not going to open trading, we can discuss that later once I have the numbers, because you're operating from a vantage point of seeing the numbers, and I don't have that same vantage point, right? I can't see the numbers. So I'm stabbing in the dark here. Give me the numbers. Like, let's make this a fair fight.
Yep. Yeah.
You want to
we know that there are shorts because their own website lists it. And we know there are shorts because we know we have got people that have their accounts that show that their shares blend out. We got people that have their accounts that shows that they have a short position. And so we know that, like, borrowings happen, the short positions happen, and we know there's FTDs. And
you're still going to pay interest on it. Like, this is obviously a problem.
Yeah.
I'm baffled, but I want the books. I want the numbers. I want to know what is what. And then once we have the numbers, then I can say, and I think that's the biggest thing, but they didn't even address it. They just said immunity. But I think that once we get the numbers, then I can say, Judge, take a look at these numbers. Like, this needs to be reconciled.
Yeah, this is not 165 million and change. This is 500 million and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that,
like, this needs to be closed out. And also that changes a lot, I think, in my perspective, for FINRA on whole, because now it's like, well, how did you shit the bed this hard? Excuse me. Like, how? Like, how did this happen under your watch? Are you not regulating?
Exactly.
Isn't that your job? Yeah. Is regulating?
And the one time they do regulate is when they should be doing their job enforcing the closing of positions. Like, you should have forced the closing of positions, but instead you just went, no, we're not doing anything.
And also, like, the S1 says this isn't going to trade now, and it's not a company, but somehow it's trading. That's fine. Yeah. The first day it opens for trading, it's already shorted like 30,000 shorts on the first day. That's weird. Okay, whatever. Every single day, then it's like hundreds of thousands, and then millions. Like, that's insane. Okay, whatever. Moving on. Yeah. So people are shorting this non-company to the ground for no reason. Like, that's weird, but okay. But now you're implementing this halt because it got so out of hand. So what were you doing?
Yeah.
Because weren't you alarmed that this non-company oil and gas, like it's an oil and gas asset and a land asset, but it's not actual ownership of the land.
It's a lease. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So like, why are you, like, were your red flags not saying, like, we should watch this more heavily? Instead, you just, like, let it get short to shit, and now, sorry for saying a bad word, but I just feel like, but like, you're watching this get shorted all the way down, and then you're like, oh, we're gonna put a halt on this because it's gonna be too difficult for the settlement process. Like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. The settlement process is something you should be doing at FINRA, like, every single day. That it should be something your 5-year-old child could do it for you, because how it's so easy to you to explain. Like, that's something that you should be able to do, like, no problem. So to me, it's just baffling, the whole thing. It's just really like I'm just not even sure how this all came about. But also like how are you regulating when you're just not doing anything?
And
Or like
what and why is the U3 halt the way to regulate and not just saying like, hey, uh, NextBridge or MMTLP, whatever. We're going to move the date of record to the 14th and your distribution to the 16th. We're just going to do that so that we don't have any issues with settlement.
yeah.
Like, why is the solution like stop trading?
You know how easy the paper would be to file? It would have taken a minute.
Yeah.
Right? Just change the dates. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not even just the halt to me, though. That's the thing. Like, the halt was just symbolic, ultimately, of this, like, continued failure to regulate. That it's like, because to me, the biggest thing is, how did it get this far on something that shouldn't be trading? And even if it is trading, how are you not taking extra caution over this lease rights to minerals, not land? Like, how are you not saying, like, let's just watch this one a little bit more closely?
Yeah.
Like, what are you regulating then? Like, literally tell me what you're regulating. Because if you're not regulating this, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is your purpose and what is your function? And that to me is where I was like, you know what? Like, no. That I was really reading everything, and I thought maybe the prospectus just kind of said something like that it's still tradable thing. And I read the whole prospectus, the first one, and then I read the second one. And I don't even know why there was a for the second one, but whatever. And then I read this amicus brief. I read all the filings. I went through their website. I checked like every single day of those short volumes and the regular volumes. I was just like digging into it, and I was like, this whole thing doesn't even make sense. And if this was not enough red flags for them, then what is?
Yeah.
Like, really, what is? What's a red flag if it's not this? Please. I'm all ears. I'm ready to hear it.
And, they might be like, well, there's like 10,000 securities. And, okay. Pick one.
Okay,
Fix it.
10,000 securities, and they're all companies. This is not. So why are you not like thinking already? This is suspicious. It's not even a company.
Yeah.
It's a preferred stock under a green energy fine, but it's a preferred stock that's supposed to act as a dividend.
Yeah.
It's like putting cash on them. It's like putting just literally somebody's bank account on the market and saying this is a stock. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I like that analogy. Yeah.
So how are you not like watching this one more closely? And then when it went all the way out of hand, why didn't you put the brakes on it? And instead of the halt, you should have put the brakes and said, hey, we need to fix the position, not just put it off to the next entity. Because private companies are not regulated by FINRA. So they're just kicking it over, making it somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying let's put a stop right now. FINRA, you made this mess, so go clean it up.
Yeah.
You have two options, right? It's you can wear shoes or mop the floor. Yeah. Or sorry, you can mop the floor or you can take your shoes off.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So you chose to wear your shoes. You chose to make the mess. You're going to go mop. That's the way it is. And you're not going to just kick it off to AST and tell them, we don't regulate private companies.
Yeah.
So, no. That's the way I see it. And that's why I said the immediate harm is now, the remedy is now, before NextBridge is issued, and we have to watch NextBridge eat the fat loogie. I couldn't think of anything.
Just suck on that lung butter there, FINRA.
Hey, somebody said AOC hates me. I don't even know why people are saying this. I just read somebody's tweets about me.
AOC doesn't hate you. AOC would give you a high five if she saw you.
Oh, she hates gas stoves.
Oh. well, gas stoves. They sound like they're gonna get regulated soon. But
no, not over my cold. I'd have to be dead in the ground before that happens.
My little sister got one of those like fancy Dyson air purifiers. It has this little LED readout and it works as a fan and everything. And she had been given some candles for her birthday or whatever. She lit some candles, and the air purity went from like 100 parts per million to like 6,000. She's like, oh my God, I'm never lighting a candle again.
Yeah, candles are so bad. Everybody's telling me that the carcinogens from candles and da-da-da, and I was like, you know what? You can only live one time, all right? Like, just let me live. Let me have my gas stoves. Let me have my candles. Okay, all of us have been. They didn't have electric stoves. Well, they had them for a long time. Actually, I think we looked that up once. But I mean, gas stoves have been around for millennia. We all came out just fine. Stop trying to fix things. It just needs to be fixed. Just leave it be.
I mean,
stop trying to fix things, FINRA.
The only time I've ever used a gas stove is literally like when I'm out of Washington State and I'm at like a vacation rental or sibling's house, and I'm like,
okay, don't you feel spoiled? You're like, wow, this is fancy, right? That's usually how you feel.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how high to set the flame. I know I go like medium and eventually something sautés. Huh?
You know what you're doing with electric? Yeah, nobody knows what they're doing with electric.
So you got 1 to 10 and you just set it somewhere in there depending on how boily you want it.
You set it always at 10 because if you put it at 8, it's actually like a 2. It's in your
I don't know. We've got kick-ass hydro plants out here. I don't know if our electricity just has a little more oomph.
I don't know, man. Florida has some pretty good electric, but I'm telling you, like the stoves are just a no to me. The electric stove, that just can't do it.
Gas stoves and movies blow up houses.
Well, I think that maybe you know what? If we had to get rid of one of those, I'd say get rid of the movies. I'll keep my gas stove.
She's putting her foot down, that's for sure.
They take gas stoves away. That's when you'll find me in Washington, D.C. Pickets. Like, that is it.
Yeah.
You will find me on the streets. Like, you know what? I'll be one of the people that handcuffs myself to a gas stove.
It reminds me of when they went to like the 1.6 gallon flush toilets. There was all these people that were having hissy fits about their 6 gallon flush toilets and stuff. And there was this whole smuggling operation to get a bunch from Australia illegal in the U.S. and install into homes. And all these people kept getting arrested for having like illegal Australian toilets in their homes.
You know what? More power to them. Power to the people. Build your house how you need it.
Yeah.
Gas lines. Florida doesn't really have gas lines to houses, so it's like such a thing for me. Is like every time I look for a new apartment when my lease is ending, I'm always looking at new places. Yeah. And it's been so hard to find one with a gas stove. I finally found one, and I was literally thinking to rent both apartments for like 3 months, and I did the math on it, and I was like, if I want to eat air and water, like maybe, but you have
that apartment, and then you wouldn't be able to cook anything on it because you wouldn't be able to afford food. Yeah,
exactly. So I was like, priorities, but that gas, I was like so scared. I was like, somebody's gonna rent this before I have a chance to get it, and that's how important it is to me.
Well, the other solution is when your lease is up, you live out of your car until you find a place that has gas.
There's only like 3 buildings that have them.
Yeah, so you just go to Big 5, get yourself a little Coleman gas stove, and cook that way.
I know everybody keeps telling me to order the little ones on Amazon, but I'm scared because they're not like stuck. So like I'm scared that it'll like fall or sashimi.
And you'll burn in the building and you'll be blamed for all of it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I'm like scared to do it, but part of me is like, man, I'm really that hung up on the gas stove thing. I've been so sick. That's the one thing I miss the most about Chicago. That's why I miss the most about going home.
I do have a gas burner in my truck that is currently broken. Well, the gas burner, but the truck's broken. I have a propane tank and a little slide out with a burner so I can boil things. But I mean, just crank it and boil something. And I know how to do that. But if it came down to like getting temperature right to like saute something, I would fail miserably. I would need like coaching.
Well, it sounds like you just need like some kind of, it's like, what is it? Like culture teaching, when they like make you go and learn about a different culture or something and like soft launch you into a like society. Like, remember that movie with Tim Allen and his son? Yeah, the son that lives like what is it called?
Encino Man.
Yeah, it was like Tim Allen had a son that lived in the jungle. Do you remember that movie?
Oh,
Jungle to Jungle.
Yeah. And then there was the one that
He brought his son to
Kaufman
like New
wrote.
York.
Had one of the Arquettes in it, and it's about like this woman who is really hairy, and so she's like, "Yo, I'm leaving society. I'm gonna go live in the jungle." And she meets this like kid that was kidnapped by a monkey, and he's now an adult man, and she like reintroduces him to society and has no idea how anything works. What was that movie called? Natural Instinct or crap. It came out maybe 15 years ago, but it's one of those Charlie Kaufman movies that are hilarious.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know what? I think that's how we'll like soft launch you to gas stoves.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's important. Everybody knows how to use a gas stove.
If
You know what? Gas stoves away. They should introduce like a whole class about it in high schools. Like the home ec should now be like home ec and gas stove class.
Well, we had home ec, but we all had electric stoves in home ec here in Bainbridge because there's no gas lines. So,
You know, that town needs to like be. You're on an island. They need to push the island away.
well, the problem is that we're like on like 10 fault zones, and they're just scared that the whole island's going to blow up if they put in gas lines. So what you can do is you can get a giant propane tank delivered, and then have a truck fill it up every once in a while, and you can do propane, but you can't do natural gas because there's apparently no natural gas tanks. I don't know what they, but
Why do you live on this island?
because it's beautiful and it's surrounded by water, and it's great. You just
Have any natural gas? Don't you like NextBridge hydrocarbons? Isn't that? Aren't you like a oil and gas guy?
I am give me cash so I don't have to do anything guy, and that's really what I am. Yeah.
I know, but you own part of like this oil and gas asset.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you living there is kind of an abomination.
Hey, we just do hydropower out here. We just push water over a hill and get our electricity that way. And
I'm gonna write your mayor. I'm gonna write your mayor a message.
All right.
I'm gonna say
we have a council manager set up. It's a mess. It's an absolute travesty. So we have like a mayor, but it's just a council member who like gets to call themselves mayor for a year. It's a mess out here. Just a bunch of hippies. Yeah.
I'm gonna go there and start a revolution. I'm gonna implement gas lines that are out of bounds.
Like Johnny Appleseed.
I'm gonna go there a revolution. I'm gonna do first thing. I'm gonna bring some kind of gas stove, and I'm gonna make everybody some like delicious food and be like, you can only achieve this with a gas line. Please trust me. Everybody's hooked. They had the most delicious food. They love it, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. We bring in now gas lines. Everybody gets a gas stove. Hurrah! And then I'm just like, I have to leave.
And then 2 weeks later, the Biden administration's like, done. Everyone switch over to electric. If you have a gas stove in your house, you're going to be...
I'm going to all the appliance stores I can think of, and I'm telling them, if you get rid of these gas stoves, so help me God. That's it. You better think twice.
Yeah.
I'll sue you for injunction too. Better not. So I need to put Biden down for a nap. Like, let him really ruminate on it.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go to sleep because we're getting delirious with you now.
Yeah, I really.
Thank you for swinging by and chatting for 30-40 minutes, and giving us the update. I truly do think that your filing is top notch. It is absolutely like my one business law class. If that was a type of filing someone had made, the teacher would have been like, "Oh hell yeah, that is." That's how it's supposed to be done, because it hits every single solitary point, which their filing did not do. Their filing did not hit all your points, and it completely avoided them.
Yeah, so, ignore them.
Yeah, but judges are hit and miss. They I
think it's also like in this kind of situation, they were appointed by people who probably like because they ran in circles that probably have interest in this, but also. Maybe he's just like a totally ethical judge, but he just doesn't want to get too involved in something that he's like, I don't know enough about this regulation. Yeah. And this might just be one like mad shareholder, and they might be like just petty and not really have a good legal argument, maybe. Yeah. Right? So sometimes they read it and they're like, what does this girl have to say? But then when he sees like, okay, here's what I'm saying, judge, maybe I wasn't clear enough before because I didn't want to put numbers because I didn't want to overcomplicate it with the numbers. But I think it needed to be illustrated.
Yeah. Sorry. Before you go, people have asked me about Like, oh, I would love to like fill out a declaration saying how I was harmed and could Rosa use this.
I want to see if there's a way to get like affidavits or something and be like for evidence. The problem is a lot of it's just hearsay.
Yeah.
Like it's hearsay if somebody says that they have share lending on, right? Yeah. Even though I can see it, it's still hearsay. It's hearsay if I everybody's asking about going to a hearing. If they have a hearing, it's probably Zoom. If it's in person, then it's in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
So if people are trying to fly in, you'd have to go from like, I don't even know, like Atlanta or I don't know, Panama City or Pensacola.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a way to get more attention on it. I wish there was a way to get media on it so he would be like, whoa, this is like a big deal. Because my biggest fear is that he's like, this is just one pissed off shareholder.
Yeah.
And she's just mad. So she's just filing this because she's an attorney, so she knows how to file. Like, and they're not actually doing anything wrong. She's just mad. Like, that's what I'm worried he thinks. And I want it to become like a media thing. So he's like, oh no, this is like something. Like something here is going on.
Yeah.
And
well, I was contacted by CNN. They were supposed to call me today, and then they never called me. So we'll see. We'll see if they, and someone else just wrote me like a New York Times business investigators talking to them. So there might be some stories coming out. It's just it's one of those things that's really hard to put into 700 words. So
I know
because you have to give people a backstory as to what shorting is, what naked shorting is, like, you know, and then you talk about the company itself. So you got to like build some knowledge base for the general public.
I know. And a lot of people just start droning it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I was like, you know what? We're gonna I'm gonna put it up front first, and then do the legal.
Yeah.
So the first thing you're gonna see is like why this actually is not just me screaming that the sky is falling.
Yeah.
Sky is on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, let's do something about it before it's all the way. Because once it's NextBridge hydrocarbons, now you can't actually backpedal it.
Yep.
Right now, nobody has anything.
Yeah.
So, and even if the brokers have the NextBridge shares, that doesn't mean that you can't reopen MMTLP and then
they can just hold that in a separate room
because they haven't assigned that
yet. Exactly. They keep telling us it's assigned, but then we ask deeper, like, no, it's not assigned yet.
Yeah. So we will see.
Yeah.
And I'm refraining from like talking too much about it, but I feel like these are things that I already filed, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful, cautious to be optimistic because I worry that the judge just thinks I'm just like one mad person.
Yeah.
That's why I wish that we were getting more media coverage. I think that would help a lot.
Well, let's work on that, people. Contact everybody contact people at Business Insider, at Investor Times, at the New York Times.
If there's a local Fox News, show up at their door. They have a story for you.
Yeah, and you know if the story is good enough for that local, like think about your local news guy. What's their dream? To have a piece on national television, right? And to get upgraded to being a correspondent for the big guys. Their opportunity is to do a story on this that gets picked up by NBC Nightly News or CNN or someone, and they have that little 10, 15-minute piece that all of a sudden gives them national exposure. They love that kind of thing. So yeah, talk to your local guys and see who is willing to do a piece on this. They can get out there and get it syndicated. So
yeah.
So
that's kind of where it's at, where it's like, I hope that the judge is cool about it. But after he filed that extension granting it today, it was like kind of salty. I don't know. Are there any good questions in there?
Oh yeah, we might hit some questions here. One sec.
I always wonder what people say. I can't read the questions, so I'm always just so burdened by curiosity.
Well, there's a few super chats that were in here, and I can't see any of them because there's so much convo. All right, that's just somebody sending a sticker. That's somebody asking about Bed Bath & Beyond and GME. It has nothing to do with that. Sorry, one sec. MMTLP'd my shorts. He says, "Happy birthday, Houston. In November, you read my comment regarding my wealth manager being locked out of purchasing MMTLP, which he said he has only seen once before. I asked him who the firm's broker was. It was Citadel. So Citadel wasn't processing.
Yeah. Am I shocked? Yeah. Am I shocked?
Oh goodness. I'm sorry. I think there was a few super chats and they've all vanished and I cannot see who wrote what, and I apologize to those super chatters because the chat reset and now I'm stuck at 6:11 p.m. as the earliest chat on my side, which is 9:11 p.m. your time.
Wait, what?
So, I'm so sorry for those who sent a super chat and I can't see it. But got people saying gas stoves cook so much better than electric. You get people on the gas stove side. I'm just a caveman who apparently doesn't know how to do it. And then wood fired is better. I have used wood fired ovens, and they are spectacular in that you can cook a pizza in like 45 seconds because it's 1200.
Also, it tastes better.
Oh, they do taste better. They do impart an excellent seasoned flavor to everything. Okay. Chelsea Sterling, what part of the case was dismissed? The TRO, the emergency TRO, the data, the opening, or trading, or both?
No, it was just the TRO.
Just TRO. Okay.
The actual complaint is still rolling. So that's why he gave them an extension to respond. If he wouldn't have given them that extension to respond, their response would have been due today, and tomorrow we would have, I would have won the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, here's a little. What's this one? Alexander Zuroff. Consider motion to amend and add similarly sit individuals. There's others in your county, by the way. Oh, they're talking about, like, I guess, class actioning it, or
they want me to amend my complaint, but for what?
To add more individuals to it. Not so it's not just you; it's other people in your county that also have NextBridge.
I don't know anybody in my county that is invested, but also that is just not. I don't want to do that, to be honest. Then I have to sit there and get everybody's narrative and everybody's stuff and then file on behalf of other people. That would just, like, this lawsuit, when I'm the only plaintiff, is taking on so much work.
Yeah.
If I added people, that's like, it's multiples of how much work. And as you can see, I'm already like working myself all the way down. Like, that sounds like honestly miserable. That at that point, I think that I would rather just lose the stocks.
That's
miserable.
Yeah.
Because if I make a mistake on my case, like, it sucks for me, but it's my case. But if there was somebody else, it just adds so much pressure.
Yeah.
That it's like, and then it's already so much work, and
then
and
you're not getting paid for your hourly for doing any of it, and
so I can't do it during work time, so I would still have to do it at home, and now I'm doing infinitely more work. Like, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
It's just gonna add more narratives because all of us have the same exact thing. It's just gonna add more of like the human piece to it.
Oh, Random says, please tell people not to call and bombard the judge. There's been some tweets out there that are like, this is his email, send him as many messages as you can.
No,
do not do that.
Gonna get mad.
Don't piss off the judge by over contacting them.
If there's a hearing and people want to come outside the hearing and put up signs so he realizes this is a big thing, that's fine, because you're not inside the courtroom with signs, right? And you're not like loud and rowdy inside the courtroom. Outside the courtroom, do whatever the hell you want. Let the judge see it, right? But do not call him. No. He will yell at me, probably. I don't know.
So people in my chat are well aware of my stalker. Several years ago, a judge had ruled against my stalker for stalking somebody else, and then the stalker decided to make like videos and things about the judge, inciting people to come and like hurt the judge. And
oh my god!
I contacted the court saying, "Hey, I hope you're aware of this, but this guy has like 1 million people who have watched this video, and they're all making death threats against the judge right now. Just so you're aware." And the court was like, "You don't contact us ever." And I was like, "Whoa! I'm just trying to let you know that like there's all these death threats." Yeah, so like
ex parte communications are like a big thing.
Yeah,
and that's why the judge is like put in his order, I'm not able to call. But it's like, dude, I told you I was calling because I wanted to schedule a hearing, and I wanted to send out a notice of hearing, and I wanted to be served on them.
Yeah.
And I have to pay for the process server. The judge is not going to pay for a process server.
Yeah.
So then he's not going to give me the hearing because he's going to say there's not enough time for them to attend. So I said, I'll solve the problem, nip it in the bud. I'll pay for the process server.
Yep.
Schedule the time with me. He didn't want that. So, but he said, don't call me. Fine, I won't. but I was calling the clerk, not even the judge, but whatever. It's not a big deal. I think he could be a good judge. I read his previous rulings, and I like a lot of what he has to say.
Yeah.
But I think that in this case, it comes off as maybe just one disgruntled person that doesn't like the form of regulation, but it doesn't mean that you can overcome an entire regulatory scheme just because you don't like the form.
Yeah.
You need to prove more of the intention and the knowledge that they held. So I made sure that everything I showed, basically every site came from their website.
Yeah.
So I said they knew. You can't say they didn't know. It wasn't innocent regulation.
Yeah.
It was underhanded. And they knew. Because look at where I got this data. Where do you see these numbers?
Yeah.
Do you see FINRA.org? That's what I see.
Yep. Good.
Yeah.
Use their stuff against them. That's always the best.
Watch their website so they go down tomorrow.
That's legal jujitsu right there. They're coming at you and you're going, whoa, and just throwing them over your shoulder.
Watch their website so they go down. Everybody goes on.
They're like, oh, we got to start hiding things now. Well, I do think it's interesting, like they take on the responsibility from these congressional powers, right, to like regulate. But because they're a private organization, you can't Freedom of Information Act them.
Yeah,
which
but
seems like a complete double standard. Right,
I know,
there.
But I will say it's also the immunity thing is because when somebody has like an official purpose and they're doing these acts because they're doing them for like public service or whatever, or they were entrusted with these rights. Like if you go and sue them for money, imagine bankrupting somebody because they did their job.
Yeah,
I get that, right? If I made a bad mistake at work, I have malpractice insurance. I won't go bankrupt.
Yeah.
But imagine if that kind of thing, and there's nobody's going to take on the insurance.
Yeah.
For somebody doing a government agency on something this big. Like it's just, instead of forcing them to get coverage, which would be astronomical, they're immune from paying damages. That's good and dandy. I don't want $1 from them.
Yeah.
I want handcuffs.
So we talked, my roommate's a paralegal, right? And he's done these like giant cases with oil companies and the government and in lawsuits on all sides. And we were talking about a case that basically war powers give the government a certain ability to basically do what they need to win the war, right? So during World War II, you got to like build all this stuff, and they're making all these tires for Jeeps and trucks and everything else. And they're using just crazy chemicals to get these tires done because they may not have access to latex and rubber and whatever to do it. And they did a huge amount of polluting in Los Angeles County during the war for all the chemicals they used for this. And because it was the war effort, they're like, we can just pollute away. We don't have to worry about cleanup or anything. And then they got sued later. And they're like, no, you can't sue the government for polluting during the war effort. And the court ruled no, because you guys were so blatant in your disregard of the environment on this when you could have done the bare minimum at the time. Like it wouldn't have cost you anything to do the bare minimum to ensure this didn't pollute. We're going to allow a lawsuit against the federal government for this. And so that and you know, it drained like all Superfund's money when they lost the lawsuit. But there are instances where, you know, a regulator gets sued because their gross negligence was so over the top that
it's also like it's like the least cost. It's like whoever has it's called the least cost. It's like the lowest cost denominator is kind of what it means. Sashimi, stop. It's like the lowest. I know he always does this. It's like it means that like whoever would have had the cheaper cost to resolve the issue and knew that and chose not to, they have a liability because they chose, like if it would have not costed you that much more, like in product, like a product liability thing, if you could have made the same thing, like if you made a teddy bear with little buttons and it was a teddy bear for kids, you could have made the same teddy bear and not had buttons on it. And it's a choking hazard, so you have a liability because you could have made it, and it wouldn't have costed you that much different. Or there's something like that in civil liability, and it's like if you could have done something so similar, and it wouldn't like if FINRA could have said let people close, and it wouldn't have really costed them anything to reconcile instead of forcing people to take on like obligation positions, or if you would have, like, also it's just like when it's just become so unconscionable that somebody acted in this way, or they used their position and exploited it for some other like hidden agenda. Then what they did is no longer considered a regulatory function. That's a difference. So your act is a regulatory function when you're doing it within your mission statement, when it's within the rules, when it's within your scope or your purview. Now you're doing a regulatory act. But when it's not in your purview or your scope and you're doing it for some other reason, like you're doing it for your own financial gain, you're doing it to insulate your buddies, you don't want your broker bros to lose money, like now it's not a regulatory function. You're not doing even a regulatory function at all. You're doing something with your personal interest. You're just doing your own thing. Like it's outside of that blanket of immunity. It's not even considered a regulatory function anymore. They're just going to go ahead and say that was not a regulatory function. That was self-interested. And that is when it's like, well, gotcha. So we'll see.
I talked about this on my show when I went through their response to the TRO, right? And
it feels like it was like a whole lifetime ago.
No, it's like 5 days ago. But they stated the mission assigned to them from Congress, and that these U3s under 6440 are allowed if there's an extraordinary event, meaning it could like destroy the entire market or affect the ability of settlement. That's kind of what they said. I can't remember the exact wording.
So it would like unnecessarily cause issues with settlement and distribution.
We've seen that them taking this action has caused issues with settlement. So if the act you're saying is going to protect people from settlement issues causes settlement issues, then the act didn't work.
And I'm not so hung up on the halt itself. I'm just stuck up on like it's indicative of something else. And also you guys have seen this going on all along and you chose not to fix it, and now you're just pushing it on to the next person. No, before we get there, so fine, I went back and forth with Dave Lauer, and I like him a lot, but he said the halt is fine, the halt is fine, the halt is fine. Okay, I disagree with you on that, but let's get beyond the halt. Sorry, my cat. I know. Let's put the halt on another burner, right? And let's see, like, it's the culmination of all these things, and the fact that now people have an active liability because you didn't do your job to remedy it before we moved into the next phase. And in the next phase, you don't even have any purview. Because you don't regulate private companies.
It's like,
so now what's recourse? So what's your recourse now?
Like it'd be sort of like if you're a county sheriff and you've got a bank robber who's driving away, and you're like, my shift's up in like 10 minutes. I'm just gonna drive real slowly and watch them cross the county lines to the next county, and they can deal with it. That's kind of what they did.
So yeah, that's why I made sure to include that as well. And I was like, you know what? They can't just pass the buck. And it's not even passing the buck, it's passing the obligation. And then here's the problem with these private companies. Everything is done based on like boards of directors and stuff. So you want NextBridge to just take the L? And then that means the shareholders are taking it. So no thanks, my friend. So that we'll see how it goes. It's up to the judge if he's going to reconsider, but he doesn't necessarily have to reconsider the TRO. He has the information now. If he chooses to reconsider his order on the TRO, that's great. But if not, I have to see what their answer is to my complaint. And they're going to answer to my motion for reopening the TRO. So they've got some filing to do. And we'll see based on their response to my complaint. And kind of then I have to file something probably to respond to them. And then the judge will probably shake it all out and we'll find out. But now he definitely has more information from me. And I hope that it'll like impact his ability to like make a decision.
Well, good. And I know you're going to take a nice vacation next week. Hopefully get lots of sleep. And
well, I don't know. It's not really a sleeping trip, so it's going to be... No, I was like hoping, like, I was like, man, I was telling my friends, I was trying to convince them. We're getting a cabin. I was like, we should just do a couple days in the cabin. They're like, no, we're going hiking, and then we're going skiing, and then we're going hiking some more. And I was like, nope.
Well,
I was like,
at
guys,
least you get 4 hours of sleep on the plane.
well, I was gonna say, like, my flight's so early too, and I was like, man, I don't even get like the day off to fly. I'm not even sleeping in. So we've had this trip planned forever, and they're like, what do you mean? I was like, guys, I'm tired. They're like, you knew about this trip since March. What are you talking about? You're tired. They're like, you should have slept. I was like, no, no, that's not what being a lawyer means.
All right.
But
Well, I'm going to let you get sleep now. 20 minutes after I said I was going to let you get some sleep. I want to thank you
well,
for stopping
thank
by and giving us the lowdown as to what's happening. And I'll drag you back on. I'll
yeah,
get
I'll be.
into it when you get back from your vacation. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah,
Gonna have to do another video just ripping up. You can rip up my paper now. You can do a line by line how you did on FINRA.
we can.
Okay.
I don't have critiques. I read it and I was like, yeah, I like that. Oh, that's really good too. Ooh, I should get that one. And I mean, anything I thought up, you thought up and more. So because
We'll see.
you're actually a qualified person. I'm just some dweeb who, you know.
You know, everybody on Twitter, everybody on YouTube, like you guys all have like a really good sound knowledge of what's going on. And sometimes when I like need to like go back and think about something, I'll like go and watch people's videos and like go and look at people's tweets and Twitter feeds, and I'll be like, you know, this person always has good stuff. Let me go and look.
Yeah.
So you guys have really good information. It's just
there's an excellent hive mind going on, and there's there's always some weird like autistic guy who's like, I'm going to read every financial law ever and then highlight and post it. And I'm like, holy crap, this dude's digging so deep. All right, that's cool. That doesn't really fit. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
And so the even if someone is not a lawyer, they seem to ferret out and are just geniuses at doing Boolean searches or something. And so like, use that hive mind.
I mean, the law is pretty complicated when you act like sometimes when something is wrong, it's not always illegal, or it's not always something that you can get a legal remedy for. So even if there's a remedy, it's not always a legal remedy.
Yeah.
So for this thing, that's why there's not really precedent, and you have to kind of set the legal remedy. The only precedent was that case that settled, so you don't have case law precedent. So I just had to say a judge made an order on this. If that judge didn't make that order, I would have really had less of a leg to stand on. But I'm just like cautiously optimistic, so we'll find out.
Oh, there's I got one more chat here. Rosa, doesn't NextBridge need to know a share count?
NextBridge is the one that issued the shares through AST, so they have a share count.
Okay. So yeah, they know how many shares they're supposed to have. What they don't know is how many people are claiming ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They discussed that in their prospectus, right? And they posted, here's how many authorized shares are being issued: 165, 516, 363.
Yeah.
It's on my filing. Go look it up. Well, I'll let you go and do your after dark, even though it's probably still light out over there.
No, it gets dark so early here. It's winter. It gets dark like 4 o'clock. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's the dark wet. Right. That's our season. Okay. Thank you so much.
Have a good night, guys.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye. All right. Okay. So, monkey butt still slug under a rug here. Want to thank everybody. Oh shoot, there's a Hain Train one I missed. Hain Train, thank you, Rosa. You're appreciated. Thank you, Rosa. You are appreciated. When I get my YouTube check on the 21st, I can send her whatever wonderful things you guys managed to send tonight. So, where am I? You're there, and oops. How do I? There we go. Sorry, got to get my chat all squared away here. I've got my backed up chat and my regular chat. And again, I totally apologize if I missed super chats because I did the chat refresh and just cut out an entire hour of chats that happened. And I know from math that there's super chats in here I missed. Okay. Okay. Where am I? I'm going to go past the gas stove conversation. All right. gas stove, gas stove, gas stove, gas stove. Toilets, 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 gas stove, and toilets. All right. Put a tank on your balcony. Mailman shorting gas stoves. Okay. Jungle to Jungle. That was the name of that movie. Okay. There we go. We got the name of the Tim Allen movie. So we got that out of the way. And there's George of the Jungle. People saying Seattle's gorgeous. Gas stoves, gas stoves, gas stoves. My goodness, I've got a lot of scrolling here. Talking about using radioactivity cook. Man, there's a lot of opinions on gas stoves here. Richard K. So is the judge opening up trading? We still don't know. There's not going to be an injunctive relief, like an emergency relief to open up trading. He's going to wait for the argument from FINRA before he traditionally would rule on such an injunction. So no emergency injunction, no TRO. But Roza did file for him to reconsider, saying basically FINRA's reasons for why you shouldn't do this are bullshit. And here is what the real case law says. So hopefully he reads that and he goes, oh, FINRA just tried to pull a fast one on me. I ruled too quickly. Let's sanction FINRA and give Roza a high five. That's kind of, I think, where we're at. Okay. GT322 says MMTLP are trading 23 to 27 January 2023. There's a lot of rumors saying that there's, they're going to open up gray market trading. They're going to do trading here and there some point in the next month. I have no way of verifying that other than there's just been rumors people spout on space calls, and I'm not going to say one way or the other if that's ever going to happen. So people are saying it's going to happen, but I don't know. There was like, oh, they're going to open up 5 days of trading. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They make position close only. I mean, it'd be awesome if they did. There's speculation that they'd open up trading, and if you ask too much for your shares, they'd immediately just like put your shares into they're just going to get NextBridge file and only sell or only buy reasonable prices, which tells me as a community that if they're opening up trading for 5 days, if they do, no one put in a limit order until day 5. No one sell, no one agree to anything. You just wait and they can buy up 500 million shares on day 5, if that's how they're going to do it. They're immediately just going to like, oh, you want $1,000 for your share? We're not going to bother with you. We're going to stick you over into this side. Then just no one do a limit order until, heck, no one do a limit order until there's an hour left in trading on day 5, if that's how they're going to roll it, right? Show them just how much they owe us. And don't let them kick the can. Don't let them, name their price. We get to name our price because they have to close their positions. We don't have to sell. And that's how it should be done. I see there's lots of roses for Roza popping up in the chat as well. In Too Deep, Houston have a cash account, so I don't have lending set up. Also, I contacted my local news, and they haven't responded at all. It might, if you get like someone who's hungry enough in the local news, you might get lucky. It might be a hard sell though to figure out like how Sacramento 5 gonna make this story, but it would probably be someone looking to do a story and get their national news exposure. So talk to them, be like, hey, you do a good enough story on this, you can get this sucker on MSNBC or the nightly news or something from the local affiliate. So I think that's a selling point if you're going to try and make it attractive to your local news guy. Okay. Jimmy Sams, Houston, can you go on Joe Rogan? I think that's up to Joe Rogan. I mean, I can do whatever. He has to be the one to be like, yeah, let's talk about this. So, I don't have that power. Monkey butt artwork for sale. I don't have any monkey butt artwork. I mean, she has an Instagram page. I think monkey butt around the world is her Instagram. Oh, Pete Donnelly, forgot to get to yours. What's happening with Bed Bath & Beyond? How does it relate to GME? Well, there's two of these meme stocks are popping. Party City is popping, and Bed Bath & Beyond went up, 68% or something today. Bed Bath & Beyond is giving quarterly results, the earnings this week. So there might be speculation as to what those earnings are going to be, and that's why it's going up. But I don't expect that the earnings report they're going to announce that they're spinning off Baby, or Ryan Cohen is getting a hold of it or something, or if he's back in on the company. Oh, excuse me. So I don't know if it's a function of the earnings report coming up, or if it's a function of shorts having to cover. I don't know why this stock would go up 60% now versus a month from now. I honestly don't know. I don't know. Just in my head, you see the transiting exoplanet survey satellite found habitable planet in Goldilocks zone TO1700E. Oh, really? TO1. T, is that O as in O or O as in 0? Looks like a 0. T0I1 700E. Oops. 700E. Test Planet Hunter finds first Earth-size world. That's TOI 700D is Earth-size. That's from 2020. Let's see if there's anything in the news. That's from January last year, 700E. And that's in French, so that doesn't help me. Okay. I don't see any up-to-date articles on 700E that are new. And I'm now 700E is also a tail rotor assembly on a helicopter. The KSM 20T01 tail center hub assembly. So now I'm just getting helicopter parts. Oh, there's also a steamliner locomotive part that is that number as well. So Hughes helicopters. That's their part. So no, just in my head, I have not read up on that. I know 700D from 2 years ago, Earth-size world, not necessarily in the Goldilocks zone. So I'm going to have to, if you see an article, man, send it to me. I will read it or post it to the Reddit, r/Houston Wade, and join in the Reddit there. And that's a great way to just, put weird stuff and news about finances and science and cool things in there. Alexander Zaroff, he's a federal judge. If this is your first filing in front of him without prior knowledge, be thankful he advised about your initial filing. Rule 8, well pleaded. I mean, that's her filing was the one she submitted today is really, really good. I'm saying that as a complete layman, but I've read my share of filings as a result of going to court a whole bunch. it's dynamite. It's top notch. It's the type of thing that if you were doing a class on securities law or something, you would probably want to hold that up as this is what you want to do. This is how you do it. I would not hold up last Friday's filing from FINRA that way. That was written at like a fourth grade level. It was really kind of sad. Like I was like, ew, this doesn't even like feel good to read. I don't feel like I'm learning anything. And that's, I don't know. I'm a total layman, but I want to feel like when I read a filing, I'm going, oh, that's a good point. That's interesting. That tickles like my hippocampus or something. And I didn't get that from it was the FINRA's response was not interesting. And if I were a judge, I'd want interesting. I want something that makes me go, yeah, this seems like an interesting case. Let's go further. Okay. Cabo, now that we have different QSIPs, if they open up trading, how do we know what to buy and sell? My guess is that if they were to open up trading again, they would probably standardize the QSIP across the board for all the brokerages. There'd be some sort of announcement like, hey guys, everything's going to be 64T9-56, whatever. And then it's just everyone would just change it to that for like the fifth time. There's a lot of brokerages that are using the same one. The QSIP with Fidelity is being used across, I don't know, a dozen or so brokerages. That could signal like these are parties that are going to participate in the same gray market if it comes to that. But again, that's more speculation. But if I were to open up a gray market, I'd want to ensure that folks are at least sharing a QSIP so that when it comes to clearing, it makes it much easier. And there's no confusion because any clearing is going to be broker to broker anyway, and not involve a clearinghouse. So you'd want to at least like know that what someone bought can be used to be put into this account or whatever, or just deleted from existence. Because all right, and I've had some people. All right, I'm going to use some of these. I have a whole bunch of like little notes. I'm going to take some colors. Just take, how about for colorblind people, I'll try to do blue and green. Hopefully that will work. I think that'll work. Got 3 there, 3 there. Okay, and then I'll just rip them in half, and that way we'll have 12 examples. Okay. This is going to be, these are going to be our real shares and fake shares. And hopefully, I don't know, I'm not colorblind, so I don't know exactly what complementary color, but I was going to try to avoid red and green because I know those are complementary colors, and blue and yellow are complementary colors. But green contains both blue and yellow, so hopefully this will stick out to those folks who happen to be colorblind, and we can, you know, thinking of you guys. I want to be ADA compliant on this show. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's this hand, and then this hand here. Is that how it's gonna roll? Oops. Sorry, gotta set up my whole example. See if this works. Okay, I've got 2 brokers. I need a third hand. So I got 2 brokers, right? We'll make green real shares and blue fake shares, right? And we are set to position close only. This position close only. This is how FINRA fucked up, right? Their concern is that new people will be joining on December 9th and December 12th. New people will be opening positions in the stock. That's not what happens in position close only. Position close only, we have a whole bunch of customers in 2 different brokerages. They all think they have shares. Some of them have real shares, green ones. Some of them have fake shares, blue ones, right? And if this goes to date of record, then everyone's got their record. But there's too many shares. There's only 6 shares available, and we've got 12 shares being represented here. Is that what I'm talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, you got 12 shares total, and there's only 6 that can pass the data record to receive the NextBridge shares. So what happens is only people willing to close their positions will sell. Only people who can buy are brokers force closing positions for short holders. So it's not the hedge fund going, you know what, fine, I'll close my position. It's the broker saying, screw you, I'm taking your money and I'm closing your position. That's how it's rolling. So there's no one opening new positions. Only short positions going to close. So we got these two brokers set up, and green's real, blue's fake. Now, if a broker over here wants to replace a fake one with a real one, they would buy a real one. They take that real one, they install it into that account and take this fake share and they delete it from existence. Boom. Now we're down to 11 shares. This broker now has a whole bunch of legit on their side, and this one has a whole bunch of fake on their side. Now, if the share they buy is a fake share, right? They buy a fake share, yoink. They delete it from existence, bonk. It is gone forever. Now we're down to 10 shares. Still, everyone who owns shares still have a share in their account if they want to keep it. That's how it remains. And let's say this guy over here closes position. He buys a stock from these dudes. So this stock is transferring over. It replaces a blue share, goes down. Bam, we're down to 8 shares. And we've got, nine shares. Sorry, 9 shares. And we've got 3 fake ones left that have to get closed out. So this broker has an inter broker deal where this dude sells his share to another person inside of theirs, to an account side there, bump, or it just moves over places. Bam. Now we've got everything cleared over here, and we still have 2 fake shares on this side. And we're getting to zero. The price is getting crazy. They're trying to close this stuff out as much as they can. And now another real share gets sold, sent over here to replace this guy. Now we're down to our 7 shares. And then finally, someone buys a share, happens to be an account that's got a synthetic, and they just delete it from existence. It's gone forever. And now we're down to our 6 shares. And NextBridge can give AST 6 shares, and boom, we're done. We're closed. But as it stands now, we have a whole bunch of fake ones in these accounts. There's no way to give a 1-for-1 on anything because there's millions, hundreds of millions, billions, I have no idea, fake shares set up inside these brokerages. And because the brokers had already told people, like, no, we're going to position close only on the 9th. Like, that's what we're doing. We're not gonna allow people to open new positions. We're just gonna go close only, and that's it. And the FINRA stepped in and said, just no more trading. We don't know how to deal with this. When the brokers were like, we already told people we're going to go to position close only. There's gonna be no new positions opening from any of our customers. They'll only be able to sell in order to close these positions. And FINRA took that ability away. So, there should have been no problem in seeing that through. It's very frustrating to me that FINRA had that panic when the brokers already knew how to do it. Position close only is a thing. We have an entire market that's an expert market where you can only position close. That's where Sears was trading forever. We're Blockbuster. We're Goldman Sachs, or Lehman Brothers and stuff. We're trading. So we know how to do that. We have experience doing position close only. So chill out, FINRA. Jeez, minis. Jen R, thank you, Jen R. Hain Train has a hippopotamus cyborg saying OP. Well, thank you, Hain Train. We appreciate that. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, I gotta get through here. Okay, that got that one. I got that. I did that one. Okay. Okay. Kabo, and where in her filing does she prove FINRA did it outside of their regulatory obligation? Um, I mean, you can read it. She basically points out, like, hey, the regulatory obligation was to make sure the stock didn't trade, and then they let it trade, which was against the regulatory obligation because there isn't a single document that was filed by Metamaterials or Torchlight that said, yeah, you can trade this thing, no problem. It all explicitly said, do not trade, and then they allowed market makers to create a market. Those market makers use outdated information from a company that no longer exists to trade these shares. And then when Metamaterial went to FINRA and said, hey, this is supposed to trade, FINRA was like, oh, too late. That was the regulatory response. And then they allowed it to continue to be shorted. And that's, as Rosa pointed out, it's like taking someone's bank account and allowing it to trade in the stock market. That's not how it's supposed to work. So that's why it was a preferred share that was an untradeable preferred share. So basically, FINRA dropped the ball when it came to regulating, and when it came crunch time, when they were supposed to, like, maybe force close the stuff out, because what was Torchlight or Metamaterials' response to when FINRA was like, too tough shit, it's going to trade. Their response was, all right, well then we'll make the company go private, and then you got to close out these positions. And when it came time to actually say, hey, brokers, you're going to have to close out these positions, FINRA went, it's going to cost a lot of money, cancel. And that's basically what they did, citing the settlement issues. But the settlement issues arose because we have too many fake shares in people's accounts. So we can't settle anything with the distribution of these NextBridge shares. So it's FINRA dropped the ball. And FINRA dropped the ball not because, they weren't doing their job regulating. They dropped the ball because they specifically were meant to drop the ball to help their cronies, help GTS and Andrew and Rubenstein. So Ari Rubenstein. That's basically what it is, and we've all been harmed as a result of it. They weren't doing their job as delegated to them by Congress. They were insiders fucking shit up. That's what they were doing, and as a result, shit's fucked up. So there. Right? Oh wait, I don't leave my headphones on anymore. I'm not talking to anybody, so I can take my headphones off, and now everything sounds really loud because my headphones are muffling everything. Okay. James Danker, retail was never supposed to have real actual data. The system was and always has been rigged against them. I mean, yeah, that's one of the things we need to change. And I'm looking into how to do that, because if I had received a nice windfall from MMTLP, I was planning on, I was going to go to like DC for 2 weeks and just knock on doors of members of Congress and see if I can get them behind what I'd like to call the Retail Investor Protection Act, RIPA, RIPA. And I need to work with somebody who has experience writing legislation, but basically write a piece of legislation that evens the playing field, that actually makes it so that broker dealers, the hedge funds, the institutions don't have an unfair advantage over the rest of the retail trading market. And this would include things like, no payment for order flow, no dark pools, no naked shorting at all, period. If there's an FTD that's issued, you get punished for it immediately. No debt swaps, so you can't erase these positions by doing just doing an infinite number of debt swaps as they pass all this stuff around. Removing the ability of market makers to naked short, to just generate liquidity out of nothing. Move it instead, like, hey, maybe the market makers, if these shares really need to get trading to have liquidity in the market, perhaps we ask the company to issue more shares so that the money generated goes to the company for issuing more shares and not some rando who happens to have market maker superpowers. Eliminating high frequency trading so that you can't pass a share back and forth a million times to manipulate stock. Things like that we can do that can even the playing field, because you and I, we don't have the ability to fire the same stock back and forth. We don't get our data a millisecond before everyone else, and our supercomputers can calculate exactly how to gain that arbitrage. That type of stuff is phony baloney, not helping anybody except the few dorks who are at some giant trading firm. They're like, hey, I just bounced this share of stock back and forth a million times with me and this hedge fund, and we gained ourselves $1 million in arbitrage by doing it, by passing it through 5 different markets. I can't do that. You can't do that. I don't have the money to invest to be able to build that system to do that. It's an unfair advantage for them to be able to do that and then affect the price of my stock as a result of those cascading trades that they do. So because I don't yet have the personal financial wealth to go spend 2 weeks knocking on doors at DC, I have to look at other ways to do it. And I might try to create a nonprofit, like, I don't know, the Retail Investors Association or something. So I have to look at what type of board I'd need to do that, and if we'd be able to create like a lobbying arm or something. But do like $40 a year membership or something to the Retail Investor Agency or Association or whatever you want to call it, and then basically just take all of that and use it to go lobby Congress to pass something that helps us out as retail investors, so that we don't have these billionaire hedge funds just sticking in our ass all the time. And they won't be able to have FINRA and the DTC and everyone else screwing us over, because there'll be federal law stopping them from doing that. I mean, when shorts started attacking financial institutions in 2009, because all the short financial institutions were crashing, because that's what happens in a massive recession. And they're like, hey, we're going to short Goldman, we're going to short Bank of America, we're going to short everybody. It's going to be amazing. We're naked short the hell out of them. They actually passed up a specific law saying you're not allowed to short institutions, financial institutions, because they had basically turned on the hand that feeds them. But why are financial institutions exempt from being shorted? I mean, Credit Suisse is dying. The Swiss National Bank has lost $148 billion trying to keep Credit Suisse alive. And why can't you short them? I mean, they suck. Why shouldn't you be able to short them? If the whole point of shorting is to be able to like take on companies that suck and make a profit off of it as a way of managing the market, then we should be able to short the hell out of these guys. But they lobbied, and they got their own special dispensation. So if we can form a group of the millions of retail investors across the country and create an overwhelming power that can sway his election, we can play their game, and we can go to Congress and say, okay, Congressman, you're going to help us get this bill passed. And if you don't, we got a super PAC behind us, and we're going to drop $1 million on dark money ads. They're going to blow your shit out of the water. Or we could drop $1 million on dark money ads. They're going to help you. So pick one there, Congressman. We can play their game. And yeah, that's. I think if anyone wants to help me do something like that, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in the old Reddit and see if we can get something organized, because we need to start fighting fire with fire and hitting them where it hurts, which is the people who write the laws. So okay. Dr. Spurgeon's surgeon, let Rosa sleep for the love of God. I know. I was like, I'm gonna let you sleep, and then we talked for another 25 minutes, and she's like, cross-eyed. Sorry, Rosa. Hope you're sleeping well. Okay, Daniel Wissington tried contacting Charles Payne. People have talked to Charles Payne. He did have John Berta on, but it was only for a couple minutes, and John Berta really wasn't able to get the message across. Charles Payne needs to devote like a 15-minute segment on his show to this, not just like 2 minutes. It needs to be something a little more substantive, so that he can get his audience familiar with the background and then the company specifically, what happened. And that's, you just can't do that in 2 minutes. I've been trying to think of like a sound bite that can be used to bring everybody in. And basically, and I've worked on so I mentioned a couple times in the show, but basically it's, I'm not allowed to print off, use my laser printer right here and print off a few $1 million in cash and then go on a spending spree. That's against the law. It's counterfeit. I'll go to prison. But I can sell a few $1 million in shares that don't exist, take that money and go on a spending spree. That should be illegal. And that's what's happening. And it's what's destroying companies across America. Boom. There's your 30-second pitch. And we can go from there to talk about specifically about how Torchlight MMTLP / NextBridge was harmed by this and how the regulators let it happen. And that's kind of what I'm working on. It is hard to get a big newspaper involved if, you know, the space they have is for a 700-word article. How are you going to get the nuance of a situation like this in before the eyes of people and get it online on NewYorkTimes.com or whatever, AP.com, and do it in a short way that can be done in sound bites? It's really, really hard because it's a complicated issue. So journalists generally, they're like, don't do complicated, unless they're doing like an in-depth, 2-week-long story where they release a new 700-word part every week or something, and they're shooting for a Pulitzer Prize. I don't know. So we got an uphill battle in the getting this before the public eyes thing. Just Paul the judge probably hunts and pecks when he types. Yeah. Ted Tremendous, talk about Dave Lauer experience. Rosa change your mind. I don't think she mentioned it when she was talking about here, but to me, she's like, I think I changed his mind on the whole thing. And it sounded like she was talking about the stuff FINRA didn't do earlier. Like she's like, ignore the U3 halt. Let's talk about how FINRA dropped the ball over the last 2 years on this to begin with, and that led to the U3 halt. And I mean, when I was talking with Dave, we're messaging back and forth. It was, I said U3 halt caused more problems than it solved. And he was like, but there's the totally within the right because, they weren't going to be able to settle all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, they would have been able to settle this stuff because it was broker settling anyway. They would have been fine settling these things. And he was like, but now the shorts are trapped. They're not fucked. I'm like, but the shorts are only fucked if there's a market where they're forced to close. If there's no market where they're forced to close, then they aren't experiencing the infinite risk that they took on. Right now, they're trapped in a stock that's worth $0. That's exactly what they want. That is, cool, it's $0. I don't owe anything. And they can sit back, relax, and they just got away with murder, basically. And so you can't you can't trap them unless you're trapping them by making them pay a fortune, by making it so prohibitively expensive for them to ever pull something like this again. That is what you want. You want to punish them in their pocketbook. And right now they are not getting punished in their pocketbook. So until they're punished in their pocketbook, you have not trapped them. They are not FTDA. Yeah, it's the fact that Art Urbanstein is one of the market makers and part of FINRA board stand to benefit from halting MMTLP. He's not part of the board specifically. He's part of an advisory committee that advises the FINRA board, which, like, he testified in Congress, like, hey, I'm a member of this board, FINRA, of this particular committee or board at FINRA, not the board. And we talk about, high frequency trading or whatever. He is connected. And, these self-regulatory agencies, I think one of the things from Congress and perhaps the, Retail Investors Protection Act, we would say, these nonprofits, these self-regulatory agencies cannot pull people from market members. You can't pull them from hedge funds. You can't pull them from banks. You can't pull them from whatever. Like anyone who's going to serve on these boards or in appointed positions or whatever, you bring them from academia. You bring them from research institutions. You bring them from things that are neutral and not involved with manipulating the market directly. And you find pit bulls. You should have angry pit bulls at all regulators. The job of regulator is to make people's life a living hell if they break the rules. And if you're doing an okay job, pit bulls shouldn't care. Pit bulls like, yep, that guy's allowed in here. I don't recognize that guy. I'm gonna fuck him up. And that's kind of how it needs to be. It should not be, it should be adversarial pretty much at all times. It should, like, brokers should be like, oh my gosh, FINRA is calling again. This is making my life hell. Good. That's what should be happening. It should not be like, hey, FINRA, what's up, man? Going golfing later? Cool. Come by the swingers party. I got a white rock outside my house. That should not be the relationship between these things. It should be just, I hate you, you hate me. Let's fight. And that's how it should be regulated. I mean, if you go out fishing without a fishing license, right? The person who's responsible for regulating you is probably a park ranger, a wildlife official, Department of Fish and Wildlife, whatever. Like they didn't come from a factory trawler to work for a few months as the game warden, and then they go back to the factory trawler again. No, they work as a game warden, and they work as a game warden until they retire. They're going to do that government job for 30 years, and they're going to retire. And so when you see the game warden's boat, the fish and wildlife guy come along, you're not going like, hey, this is Ted. We worked together on this fishing boat where we legally fished for years together. Everything's fine. We're going to high five and share a stogie and be on his way. We don't do that with other regulatory bodies. When it comes to financial institutions, we allow the horrible pillaging, like Viking warriors, to become the people regulating the Viking warriors. And it's that, classic fox in the hen house type analogy. So we need to, my meeting's timed out after 40 minutes. Okay. Well, we're just going to do a new meeting because my camera's only working on Zoom at the moment. So, sorry, Zoom. There we go. Close. Got it. All right. We only have a few minutes left anyway before my voice falls out of my throat. Okay. Let's find some more here. Some more yicky yakety questions we got here. Okay. All right. Man, there's a lot of angry people in the comments tonight. I wonder where they all came from. So Robert Hurt, why can't we hire an attorney in the same jurisdiction with MMTLP client other than Roza's flood the court? I mean, you can. The thing is you got to find a lawyer who's willing to do it, and it's going to cost a fortune. An absolute, just god-awful amount of money to do it. Roza can do it because she's skilled, and she can represent herself, and she can put her own ideas and her own experiences out there. But the minute she's got to take on another client or another lawyer has to do it, because when you hire a lawyer, you're making your problem their problem, right? They're agreeing to like, okay, I'm going to go to the ends of the earth for you, and I'm going to pretend like this is me being hurt, and I'm going to attack your enemy, and it's going to cost so much money. I mean, what Roza's doing on her own time, she's already done $15,000-$20,000 in work, right? And that's her after hours, her weekends, whatever. And that is without any discovery being involved. And if the case gets further and there's discovery involved, then you're looking at $1 million right off the bat, just to deal with just documentation during discovery. You're going to have 3 paralegals and a couple of lawyers going through every single solitary piece of paper they get from FINRA, and they're going to be cataloging it, and they're going to need licenses to software to do it. They're going to have to scan it all. It is a really, 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 really time intensive pain in the ass, and it gets really expensive. So if you happen to be Mr. Moneybags and you can go to a securities firm and say, hey, I'm just going to drop $2-3 million bucks on a retainer. Let's go get them. They'll be like, sure, money's money, whatever. But if you're like, okay, I got $10,000 for you to file this thing, they're like, cool. What then? It's going to cost you $1 million after this, and if you don't have it, they're not going to do something like this on contingency, because the payout, there's no monetary payout, right? You can't sue them for monetary damages, and they know that, so they're not going to take on the case on contingency, because if you win, they're still not getting paid. So, maybe there's Rule 11 sanctions, and they force FINRA to pay those sanctions, but they're not going to get their like multi-million-dollar payday out of it, and that's where it gets hard. That's why people have been calling their these law firms, asking law firms like, I'm not touching that, because they know it's a money loser. Which is why Roza going for this injunctive relief on her own time is, a very smart move for her, and it helps us a lot in the end. The Citadel claimed they profited last quarter. Yes, they claimed they had huge, like $7.7 billion in profits last quarter. How? Well, my guess is they probably sold $10 to $30 billion in securities not yet delivered. We'll see when their yearly report comes out about how many securities they've not delivered. But my guess is it might be approaching 100 billion or over 100 billion. I know it was 70 billion last year. It was like 18 billion the year before. So they're ramping up the naked shorting like crazy, and Citadel is just an evil bunch of evil dudes. Man, you guys really want Roza and I to get married? It's embarrassing. Okay. Every time you drink from that bar, I think it's from Hillbilly 808. Every time you drink from that jar, I think it's moonshine. It is. I mean, it has the potential. That's one of the ingredients for moonshine, which is water. But now I'm on to the turn off the intro jar with the straw. Okay. The monkey butt calendar goes for 5K. We could do a monkey butt calendar. I mean, it's a little late to do a calendar now because the year's already started. But we got enough pretty pictures of you on the internet. We could do a monkey butt calendar. Okay. Hillbilly says, I think meme stocks are going to cause a bull trap. Thoughts? Where's my doohickey? I can't think without my doohickey to play with. We could get there. I'm very curious to see what happens after the deep out of the money puts are done on the 20th. They'll have, I think Get It Got was saying like 90 days to figure out a way to cover for all this. Might even be less. So that would mean what? March, April could get really wicked again, like it did in 2021, especially for GME, because we've got like a couple 100 million shares worth of like 50-cent puts that are going to expire out of the money, and they're going to either have to pay a fortune, an absolute just boatload of fortune on much more expensive leaps in those puts than they did before, or they're going to have to own up and start closing positions. That was that's going to be quite interesting. I found my doohickey I fool with. There we go. Now my brain can think because I have my fidgeter, which is just a piece of Velcro. But whenever you see like my hands moving around, I'm playing with this Velcro while I'm talking. It's my fidget spinner. So I think I think we'll have a week or so of Roza being on vacation. Well, I don't think any new filings are going to happen, at least till the 1st. So maybe we can start focusing on what might be happening with GME here. I think the deep out of money puts are going to expire, and that's what a lot of these shorts have been using as identifiers for Reg Show, saying, "Oh yeah, I have a bunch of puts, so I've identified a bunch of shares I could get," and they're never going to go in the money. GameStop, it will not be at 50 cents by January 20th. So they're going to expire, and it's going to cost them a boatload to buy options and puts that are much more expensive. John Doe, HW, good program today. Heads up, page 301 of Naked Short Greedy. DTCC can destroy failed data after 2 years of non-transferable status. It suggests quick action. Okay, so if we have FTD data from MMTLP and this thing gets drawn out, they can destroy that data in 2 years. And then we have no info as to it. Okay, good to note there, John Doe. That's something to think about. All right. BW Brand crypto is pumping. I looked just before we went live, and it was pumping. Like Bitcoin was up to 18 or something. What's it doing right now? What are you doing right now, my man? Bitcoin, it looks like it leveled off 18.2. This is on news. So Bitcoin's pumping on news that exchanges are going to cancel Tether. Basically, Crypto.com in Canada's gotten rid of it, and they're talking about getting rid of it in Crypto.com US. And Tether is how most of this crypto was purchased. So what type of pump? And it's going across the board. I mean, Shiba Inu up 3%, Bitcoin up 4%, Ethereum up 5%. So I mean, they're all doing the thing they do where the waves all go up at the same time. Interesting indeed. On what news? Binance just announced they don't have money backing up their Tether coin. FTX, they've recovered $5 billion, the $8 billion they lost. Okay, so everyone lost money there. Silvergate is going down. They had a run on their bank. Was it what's the other one, Monkey? The one that might be declaring bankruptcy this week. There's another one there that was related to FTX and Binance that they've halted trading, and everyone thinks they're going to declare bankruptcy here soon. But why is it pumping? What could possibly make it pump this time around? Pump and dumping is probably what's happening. Quiet Quest. So what would happen next if NextBridge sold tomorrow? They would announce a special dividend for all of their shareholders after paying off the broker fees and, underwriters and whatnot. And then if they did that, then the shorts would be responsible for paying that fee. So, if there's a billion shorts out there, and I'm pulling this number out of my butt, and the payoff is $100 a share, which would be lovely, right? Getting $100 a share. Then there'd be a PIL responsible for all. Sorry, Rosa just messaged me. Yes. There'd be a whole bunch of people at these hedge funds responsible for the payment of that to all those fake shares that they created, and that's it. That's what they do. And if there's a billion shares, it would cost them $100 billion to pay, and they don't have that money. So it would bankrupt a whole bunch of banks. So regardless of what happens, either they can close the shares and bankrupt them, or they can wait for the PIL that would have to happen, and it would probably bankrupt them there also. So there you go. Okay, Monkey Butt and I are done for the evening. I want to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank Rosa for hopping on. So there you go. So I want to thank everybody, and have a great night, and enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you Friday. Cool? All right, after dark. Bam. Oh, wait, I hit the button.